He walked up to the gates of the U.S. military base like he had done it 1,000 times before. An old man, back slightly hunched, clothes plain and worn, his steps slow but steady. In his hand, he held out an identification card that looked outdated, its corners frayed, the photo faded. The young guards on duty glanced at it, then at him. One of them chuckled. "Nice try, old man. This thing looks like it was printed back when dinosaurs walked the earth." The other laughed harder, waving the card dismissively. "You're not fooling anyone. Retired or not, this ain't a senior center." "Try again." The old man said nothing. He just stood there, his eyes calm, almost patient, like he'd been through this before. Then the scanner beeped. A red light flashed across the screen. The guard's smirks froze. The system didn't say invalid. It didn't say expired. Instead, bold letters lit up the screen. "Top secret. Alert General immediately." The guards exchanged panicked looks. The laughter drained from their faces. Suddenly, the man with the fake-looking ID wasn't just an old veteran anymore. He was someone the system itself had flagged, someone the general had to see at once. The younger guard stammered, his confidence gone. Sir, we, need you to wait right here." The old man gave the faintest smile. "Take your time, son. I'm not going anywhere." The guards backed away quickly, speaking into their radios, voices urgent. The words "General's office" and "Priority alert" carried in the night air. The base, usually calm at this hour, began to stir. A vehicle rolled up with its lights flashing, and out stepped a pair of military police who didn't look like they were in the mood for jokes. "Sir, we're going to have to ask you to come with us," one said firmly. The old man didn't resist. He simply tucked the ID card back into his pocket and followed. His steps were steady, unhurried, as though he knew every inch of the base by heart. They led him through the checkpoint, down the long road past barracks and supply depots, until finally they reached the command building. Inside, the general himself was waiting. A tall man with gray hair and a presence that filled the room, he looked up from his desk with irritation until he saw the face of the man being escorted in. For a long moment, the general said nothing. His eyes narrowed, recognition flickering in them like a candle fighting to stay lit. "It can't be," he muttered. The old man gave a tired smile. "Been a long time, General." The guards looked between them, confused. The general finally snapped out of his trance and barked, "Leave us!" When the room was empty, silence hung heavy. The general rose slowly to his feet, staring at the man who should not have been there, who should not even have been alive. "Where the hell have you been?" The old man, his name still unknown to the guards, only replied, "Out where they sent me. Out where nobody was supposed to come back." The general poured 2 glasses of water, his hands trembling slightly. He slid one across the desk, though the old man didn't touch it. "They told me you were gone," the general said finally. "They told me your whole unit was lost." And then, nothing. No reports. No remains. Just silence. The veteran's eyes darkened. Silence was the deal. "We were ghosts, General. Even you weren't supposed to hear from us again." The general leaned forward, his voice low and sharp. "Then why are you here now? Why walk onto my base with a card that hasn't been valid in 30 years, only for the system to light up like it saw a damn ghost?" For the first time, the old man looked tired. Not weak, but heavy, as though carrying years of memories that threatened to crush him. Because the world's changing again, and the things we buried are starting to crawl back to the surface. The general froze, his mind racing. He'd heard rumors, whispers of old operations resurfacing, of secrets that could unravel alliances and ignite wars. But none of those whispers had ever come with a face. Now one sat across from him. The old man finally slid the ID across the desk. "Scan it yourself. The system knows what I am, even if you wish it didn't." The general stared at the faded card, then reluctantly fed it into his own terminal. The screen blinked, then filled with classified tags and blacked-out lines. But one phrase repeated over and over, "Access level, Omega Black. Clearance required, general officers only." The general exhaled slowly. His voice was barely a whisper. "You were part of Project Sentinel." The old man didn't confirm or deny. He just looked at him with those calm, unwavering eyes. Outside, the base hummed with activity, but inside that office, time seemed to stand still. "Why now?" the general demanded. "Why show up after all these years?" The veteran leaned forward, his voice quiet but cutting. "Because the men we fought back then weren't wiped out. They've been waiting, rebuilding, and now they're moving again. You can ignore me if you want, but by the time you realize I'm telling the truth, it'll be too late. The general's throat tightened. He'd seen intelligence reports, scattered incidents no one could quite explain, entire shipments disappearing, covert units wiped out without a trace, and always, just beyond the reach of proof, the shadow of an enemy thought long dead. "You're saying they're back," the general muttered. The old man nodded. "And they'll come here. They'll come for you, for this base, for everything you're protecting. Because once, a long time ago, we stopped them. And they don't forget." The general paced, his boots echoing on the polished floor. Finally, he turned. "You realize what you're asking me? To trust a man who vanished, who by all accounts should be buried in a desert grave somewhere, whose very existence is denied by every piece of paper in this building." The veteran's reply was simple. "I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust the war that's coming." That night, the general couldn't sleep. He sat in his quarters, staring at the old file he'd pulled from deep storage, the one with most of its lines blacked out, the one marked with the same codename the system had displayed. Project Sentinel. He remembered the rumors, the things whispered about in classified halls. A unit sent beyond borders, beyond laws, men who fought battles that were never recorded, who carried burdens no soldier should. And at the top of the list, a name he had buried in memory, the man now mopping sweat and dust off his boots in the outer office, as if he belonged there. By dawn, the general had made his choice. He summoned the old veteran back. "You want to warn me? Fine. But if I'm going to act on this, I need proof." The veteran's eyes glinted. Proof costs blood. "And I've already paid my share." Before the general could reply, alarms blared across the base. Sirens wailed, red lights flashing. A soldier burst in, breathless. "Sir! Perimeter breach on the east fence. Multiple hostiles." The general's blood ran cold. He looked at the old man who was already standing, calm, steady, eyes sharp as knives. "I told you," the veteran said softly. "They're here." Chaos erupted outside. Searchlights swept the darkness, gunfire cracked in the distance. The general barked orders, men scrambling into position. But in the midst of it all, the old veteran moved with purpose, not panic. He slipped past the guards, grabbed a rifle from the armory like it was second nature, and loaded it with hands that hadn't forgotten. The younger soldiers stared in disbelief. "Sir, he's not cleared." The general cut them off. "Let him through." The veteran stepped into the night, the years falling away from him with every stride. He was no longer the hunched old man at the gate. He was something else, something honed in fire and darkness. And as the enemy shadows broke through the wire, he met them head on. The recruits who had laughed at his faded ID watched in stunned silence as he moved, fast, precise, unstoppable. Every shot counted, every motion efficient. He was a storm wrapped in flesh, and for a moment, they forgot he was old at all. By the time the breach was contained, the ground was littered with enemies who would never rise again. The veteran stood at the edge of the base, breathing steady, rifle smoking in his hands. The general approached, eyes wide with something between awe and fear. "You shouldn't be alive," he said softly. The veteran finally looked at him, a tired smile tugging at his lips. "Neither should they. But here we are." He handed the rifle back to a stunned soldier and walked past the line of men who now looked at him not with laughter, but with respect and a touch of fear. As he disappeared into the night, the general knew one thing for certain. The system hadn't been wrong. The alert hadn't been about an intruder. It had been about a ghost returning to the living, and sometimes when the world edges toward darkness, it takes a ghost to keep it from falling.